Hi, everyone. I'm Laurie McSwiggan with Vitality Collective Hormone Health. I co-founded it with my sister. She's an advanced practice nurse, and we take care of all people, but I love taking care of women, and we really focus on supporting women through their perimenopausal and menopausal transition. We're a full hormone health practice. We support functional medicine care as well as, conventional support, but we go as deep as we can for root care medicine. All right, I am going to share my screen. Uh, let's see. I have a little presentation. All right. Everyone can see that all right? Okay. All right. So last time when I was here, we talked about midlife as more of a reorganization, not a breakdown, although sometimes it feels like a breakdown. And we looked at what's actually happening hormonally and why symptoms can feel so different from one woman to the next. And we also introduced the idea that where you feel things in your body, it might not actually be random. And today we're going to take that a little bit further. And we want to focus on our chakras. We talked about how chakras, there's many different societies throughout the world and throughout time that have recognized that we have these energetic centers in our body. I just happen to be fascinated by and focused on the chakra system, which originated in India. And but we're going to talk today about how our physical symptoms and the changes we experience in menopause, we can actually correlate them to our chakra system. And we're going to focus on the three lower areas of the body and really start connecting what's happening physically with what's happening emotionally and energetically. And before we go into each area, I really want to ground this in something important, that our endocrine system, right? Our hormone system is deeply interconnected. Our brain, our thyroid, our adrenals, our pancreas, our ovaries, they're constantly communicating with each other. So when one part of the system is under stress, it truly affects everything else. And this is where things really start to overlap with the framework we introduced, because the chakra system, it maps onto these same regions of our physical body. So this is not separate from biology. It's just another way of trying to understand how your body processes stress, how it experiences the change in midlife, and where we might be sensing it if we're listening to our body, sensing it within our body. Okay, so let's start with the base, the root. This area connects to our adrenal glands and our stress response system. In case you're not familiar with the adrenals, that's where cortisol, which is our major stress hormone, is created. And this is where so many women begin to feel changes like anxiety, poor sleep, fatigue, feeling constantly on edge, right? And now biologically, we understand why. Progesterone is declining, which normally has a calming effect. It works with our GABA centers in our brain. And then cortisol patterns can also become dysregulated. A lot of women will explain that they wake up in the middle of the night with a startle, or they wake up multiple times and they don't know why. Many times this is cortisol being dysregulated. So our system becomes more sensitive to stress. But this is where all my holistic life coaching and years working with the chakra system adds another layer, because it's not just about hormones. It's often about where long-standing patterns show up. Over responsibility. How many of us have been over responsible for the past, I don't know, 30, 40 years of our life? Or always pushing, always holding everything together for everybody. And midlife is often the moment where our body says, you know what? I can't keep doing this. It just doesn't work this way anymore for me. So it's not just stress, it's our body's call for safety. And that's really that connection with that root chakra area, is our body is seeking like primal safety. And if we're always the ones providing the safety for everyone else, it seems to fall apart more when we get to this midlife point, because things are changing all around for us. And next is the sacral area. So this is like right below your belly button in your in the reproductive area, and it connects to the ovaries, which are our reproductive hormones, and this are created. And this is where many of our the most noticeable physical symptoms happen during perimenopause and menopause, right? We have irregular cycles, heavy or unpredictable bleeding, we get hormonal swings, changes in libido, changes in our body, and these are very real biological shifts. But this is also where our identity begins to shift. So in my coaching work, this is where women start asking, who, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't feel like myself anymore. I don't even know what I want anymore. They might not want to stay in the same job. They might want to, don't know if they want to stay in the same relationship. They are tired of the role they've been playing for so long. And a lot of women will start to identify what they can no longer tolerate. And what happens is relationships begin to change. And that doesn't mean they have to end, but boundaries become more important. Like what you used to do for people, maybe you're not going to do that anymore. And in our sacral chakra, that is where we have these very deep bonds, not only with our children, if we have children, but also with whatever type of relationship, deeply important relationships in our life. And so many women, they realize that they have disconnected from their themselves. So this isn't just hormonal fluctuation. In this center of our body, this is where we can identify with identity recalibration, right? Who you're becoming. Because I don't know that we can fully go through menopause the same woman that we entered it as. So, just keep that in mind as you move through this time in your life. And so now we're going to talk about the third center, which is the solar plexus. And this connects to the pancreas, which regulates all that insulin that gets shot through our body. It's metabolism and blood sugar regulation, right? So our pancreas is so important. And it's interesting that it's right in the center of our body. And that's where, we reclaim our personal power. And there's so many of us experience these crazy metabolic shifts during midlife. We start gaining weight in our midsection. And I can't tell you how many women come into our practice, and one of their main reasons for coming is that their body just doesn't respond the same way anymore. Like all their tricks and techniques and exercise routines and the way they've eaten or drank and all these things in the past, it just does not work anymore. So we know that there's physical changes that happen, and we know why. They experience weight gain, bloating, slower metabolism, blood sugar changes. And like I said, those are real physiological shifts. But this is also, like I said, where our personal power lives. And what I see in some of my coaching work is that uh, some women, they come in and they feel broken, like they have a loss of confidence. They feel like they've lost control. Physically, maybe they've lost control of their weight or their ability to keep their weight off. But now they're filled with self-doubt because it kind of you know, I don't think resonate is the right word because it's too soft of a word, but kind of like if it like a eruption, it erupts throughout their body that they start to spiral because especially if they're high achieving women, because when your body stops responding in the way it used to, it truly challenges your sense of control. So this isn't just metabolism, it's your relationship with control, with power, and with self-trust. And sometimes we need to rebuild that during midlife because if, I like to liken it to queendom. I always had this vision of myself that by the time I turned 50, I would be so well learned and educated and I would be at the top of my game. And yeah, that wasn't exactly how it happened. So I like to help women find the crown that they think they lost. And part of that is reclaiming their power through that solar plexus chakra. Okay. So when we bring all this together, we could probably talk about this for hours, but I only have a few more minutes. So when we bring all of this together, we start to see something really important. Your body, it's not just reacting, it's asking something at the root level. It's saying, am I safe? And then at the sacral level, it's saying, who am I now? And at the solar plexus level, it's saying, like, where is my power? And what's so important about this is that these physical shifts and internal questions, they're all happening at the same time. That your stress response is changing while your sense of safety is being challenged, right? And your hormones, they're shifting while your identity is evolving, and your metabolism is changing while your relationship with control is being questioned. So I don't believe this is random. I believe this is all interconnected. It's kind of hard to separate our internal energetic flow from what's happening to us physically. And I believe this is a coordinated shift, and we can feel it across our body, our mind, and our experience. So, how do we put this all together, right? So, when we step back and look at it, the areas that are most impacted in midlife, again, we talked about safety, identity, and control, and it's our nervous system and our hormones and our sense of self. When they all shift, we know that this can feel very destabilizing, because what's good about this is if we can recognize that we're all things. We aren't just our physical body, that we are also these energetic beings. So this is really just the beginning, because what we focused on today is our foundation. Like we said, the safety, the identity, and the power. But the next stage of this, we move upward, right? And I also feel as we move through the stages of perimenopause and menopause, we remaster these new foundational layers of who we are through our root up into our solar plexus. And then we get to live more embodied in our heart. We get to speak more of our truth and talk about who we actually are now, right? We aren't the same person we were when we were 20, when this whole journey started. And then we can be much more in touch with our third eye and our clarity and our intuition. And then, we can truly recognize our purpose and our meaning. So reframing this time through, although we experience a lot of physical discomfort, or most of us do, some kind of physical changes at the very least, um, we can reframe this as an opportunity to actually evolve and embody who we actually are now at this point in our life, and the new version of us, and we get to live it more authentically.